Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. Could you forgive cheating? Today's story's about that. Let's begin. Around 10 years ago, I met my wife through an online book club. Initially, I didn't know much about her except for the book she was reading. However, I later found out that she was battling stage 4 metastatic cancer and undergoing chemotherapy and radiation treatments. I reached out to a few guys in the group asking if they would be willing to send me small gifts so that I could put together a care package for her. She received the package in the mail and was overjoyed, expressing her gratitude and appreciation. Our communication gradually shifted to private messaging, leading to a friendship that eventually blossomed into a long-distance relationship. I would send her letters and small gifts, which she would open after each chemo appointment until the day she went into remission. Despite living 1,000 miles apart, we made countless trips to visit each other. Eventually, she made the decision to move to my state, and we bought a house together in 2015. That same year we got engaged. We tied the knot in 2016, and our marriage seemed perfect. We only had one argument throughout our 6 years of marriage. I was financially stable, which allowed her to secure her dream job that she still holds today. Without the pressure of financial strain or the responsibility of children, our marriage was relatively stress-free. Any disagreements we had were quickly resolved within a few hours, or so we believed. I will provide further details on this matter later. In 2020, we made the decision to sell our house and move 1,000 miles to be closer to her family. Unfortunately, in May 2021, my wife had to undergo a hysterectomy due to chronic bleeding. Prior to the surgery, she required 2 units of blood as her hemoglobin was critically low. I was fully supportive of her throughout the process, and she took 12 weeks off work to recover. In turn, I took 6 weeks off work to care for her. After 6 weeks, the surgeon cleared her to return to work. Although she was cleared to return to work after 6 weeks, I encouraged my wife to take the full 12 weeks to recover. A week before she was scheduled to return to work, she flew out of state to visit a female friend and co-worker. It was during this visit that she had sex with another man with whom she had been having an emotional affair for several months. I am unsure if I was the first person she had a sexual experience with post-surgery, or if it was him. It is worth noting that he was aware of her marital status. I discovered my wife's infidelity completely by accident. She was out of town for a conference last weekend, and a few unrelated incidents gave me a bad feeling in my gut. As a result, I went through her computer for the first time in our marriage and stumbled upon explicit texts and photos that confirmed my suspicions. After picking her up from the airport and driving her home, I parked in the driveway and turned to face her. I confronted her, stating that I knew everything, that she had been cheating on me and that I had seen the incriminating photos and text messages. I calmly informed her that she needed to gather her essentials and leave, either to stay with her parents or friends. I made it clear that the next time she would hear from me would be through my divorce lawyer. She did not deny the allegations. I followed her through the house as she collected her belongings, feeling as though a stranger was invading our home and going through our possessions. I remained calm throughout the entire ordeal, never raising my voice or laying a hand on her, just as I had done during our 6 years of marriage. Once she left, I turned on the alarm system and barricaded the front door with chairs. I was afraid she might come back while I slept. After she left, I felt as though an intruder had broken into my home. I had only slept for a total of 50 minutes in the last 24 hours. My plan was to call a divorce lawyer the next day, but I couldn't take time off work. I texted her to come to the house since the title was in both our names, and I was not legally allowed to force her out. Before leaving for work, I wanted to ensure that she wouldn't do anything irrational while alone in the house. We agreed to talk after I returned from work. We spent 2 consecutive days talking, with both of us shedding tears. While our marriage may have looked perfect on the surface, it was ultimately marred by a lack of communication over the 6 years we were together. Rather than addressing conflicts, We had both chosen to bottle up our feelings. During these 2 days of discussion, we learned more about each other than we had over the entire course of our marriage. It's worth noting that while she was away on her conference trip, I drove an hour and a half to assist her 90-year-old grandfather in getting out of bed. I provided incontinence care, assisted with using the toilet, prepared breakfast, and administered medication for her grandfather. This was the second time in 2 weeks that she had texted me, expressing her love and gratitude for my help with her grandfather. She admitted that before her conference trip, she had planned to break up with me under the guise of falling out of love, without mentioning her infidelity to spare my feelings. While she claimed to have had a change of heart, I had a strong feeling that things were not as they seemed. She would have continued to deceive me. If we had each put in a bit more effort, every issue could have been resolved. Although we had some shared interests, the ones that were most important to each of us were not relatable. Initially, I placed all the blame on her on the first day. However, on the following day, I began to blame myself for not being a more attentive husband, considering I worked from home all day. All she wanted was to have a conversation with me when I returned home from work. After working for 12 hours straight, all I craved was peace and quiet. My wife and I wanted to discuss social and personal matters that were significant to her, but I failed to lend an ear as I couldn't identify with her experiences. These are merely a few instances, and I don't profess to have been a flawless spouse. I have my limitations, but I endeavored to keep her content in every way I could. I discovered her when she was at her weakest, having survived an abusive past marriage, cancer, sexual assault, anxiety, depression, seizures, and the prospect of alcoholism. Although our relationship has ended due to infidelity, we will be going separate ways when she is at the pinnacle of her life. She has been in remission from cancer, has abstained from alcohol for 1.5 years, and has not had any seizures for over 3 years. Her anxiety and depression are under better control, and she has a supportive group of friends and family living nearby. On the other hand, I'm currently at my lowest point. I relocated my life for her after the move and have no local support. I haven't shared the news with my parents because they have an immense affection for her, and I fear it will cause them distress. I'm afraid that they may end up in the hospital due to the shock. We are presently residing in our home as roommates. We have mutually decided to ensure the divorce and transition process is as seamless as possible, even if it takes several months. She has been generous enough to offer me to keep the house, the newer car, both our cats, and so on. Recently, we participated in a virtual Al-Anon meeting for family members of alcoholics. The part that struck a chord with me was that family members should not hold themselves responsible for the conduct of alcoholics. I find myself holding myself accountable for my wife's unfaithfulness, despite being the one wronged. I'm in search of support from those who have faced similar circumstances. I understand that I will need to develop the ability to trust my future partner, considering the person whom I trusted wholeheartedly has betrayed my trust. My first meeting with Infidelity Survivors Anonymous is scheduled for this coming Saturday. Thank you for allowing me to express myself. Update. To provide context and not to justify or excuse her infidelity, I would like to add that she was my first serious relationship. Though I had a few encounters before her, they didn't develop into anything substantial because of an issue I had with ED. Despite having an active sex life while we were in a long-distance relationship, the problem resurfaced once we started living together. During the initial phase of our relationship, we went without sex for several months. She implored me to visit a doctor, but I procrastinated and didn't take it seriously. It was my fault, and I was younger, less mature, and ashamed. Finally, at the age of 29, I'm 33 now, I got tested and discovered that my testosterone levels were alarmingly low. I don't know how many years I had been living this way. I suspect it had been nearly a decade since I had been experiencing less energy than my peers due to low testosterone levels. After receiving a T replacement, I felt like a rejuvenated person. While we resumed having sex, it wasn't as fulfilling as it was during the long-distance relationship, and it never lived up to the fantasy we had envisioned before living together. There were still times when I couldn't stay hard, although they occurred less often than previously experienced. Yesterday, she mentioned that although our sexual encounters were infrequent, she still enjoyed them. I have been feeling like my testosterone levels are low again, now that I am more mature. I took a test and will receive the results during my follow-up visit next week. This is not meant to excuse her infidelity, but rather to acknowledge her imperfections. To provide a comprehensive view, it is only right that I mention my own shortcomings as well. Wow, I certainly couldn't forgive that. You're very good to your wife. What do you think about that? Leave your opinion in the comments. Bye-bye.